Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Travel Talk Tuesday, and it is May the 18th, 2021. Still broadcasting from right here in my kitchen in Middleburg, Florida, but I'm hoping that's going to end in about a month or so. So we'll see how that works. Regardless of where I am in the world, I'm going to keep on producing Travel Talk Tuesday because it's just a chance to get together and to talk about different destinations in Europe and other parts of the world as well as I begin to incorporate some other destinations. Thank you guys for all joining me tonight. I'm going solo tonight. Leslie, my coordinator and producer, is on vacation, so I'm running everything. So hopefully I've got it all going okay. I'm not sure about the Facebook feed. I think I've set it up correctly, but we're not going to be able to respond to anything on Facebook. So maybe you can respond to each other. You guys on Zoom, it's great to see you again tonight. And thank you for being here. We're talking tonight about the Scottish Highlands and the Islands. And that means that basically anything north of Edinburgh and Glasgow is the Highlands, and there's about 760 islands in the North Sea and the North Atlantic that are part of the islands, the Hebrides Islands and the islands of Scotland. Now, before I get going too much further, I want to tell you just a little bit about what I prepared for our snacks and dining tonight, because some of you asked why haven't I really done much of that in the last couple of weeks. I just hadn't had a chance to show you the cooking lessons, but I wanted to tell you that tonight we're having basically a meal of salmon. And so I fixed this little salmon appetizer platter, which are crackers, North Atlantic salmon on it from Nova Scotia. That's as close as I could get to Scotland. And then it has cream cheese, capers, and red onions. It tastes very, very tasty. And to go with that, I've bought the best bottle of Pinot Noir that I can find. And I love Pinot Noir from the Northwest in the United States. This is from Oregon, Rainstorm Pinot Noir. And it goes really good with any kind of salmon. So that's what we're having there. And then let me show you real quickly our main course. This is a board of a salmon fillet that I prepared this afternoon. And I've made a dry rub of about 2 tablespoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and some herbs that are not coated with salt at all. So like parsley, basil, oregano, and so a little sachet to put on that, and sugar, if I didn't mention sugar as well. I've rubbed that on there, put it back in the refrigerator for about an hour. And this particular board is unique to Germany. And so we see these boards of salmon grilling in Germany at Christmas time at the Christmas markets. And the board just sits over the grill, which I have going outside, and it kind of leans over the grill in the opposite direction that I'm doing now. I don't want it to fall off, but it kind of leans over the grill, and it cooks over the fire. So hopefully by the time we're finished up with this show tonight, you'll see the final product of that as well. So that's what we've got going on for tonight as far as eating. And let me just share my screen again here and talk to you about what we're actually going to visit tonight. So again, a big scale map of the island of Ireland, Northern Ireland, and Scotland here. And so we're going to concentrate on Edinburgh to the north. So last week we talked about Edinburgh. And let me just get going right here. I must have backed up just a second. I'll let that run a second. But there's a fault line that runs from diagonally across Scotland that defines the Highlands from the Lowlands. And
David McGuffin here.
The fault line is right about here at Glencoe.
Just up from Glencoe. And Scottish Piper in the background. Your adventure starts right here with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe.
That fault line I was talking about is you can just kind of see Edinburgh is down here in the bottom and Glasgow here. So from there up, a huge national park, all of the islands to the west and islands to the north. But that's what we know as the Highlands and the Islands of Scotland. Scotland is really not a country, but it is a nation. And it has a long history of being independent. And there were indigenous people centuries and centuries ago, but it's a mixture now of the indigenous people and the Vikings who raided back in the 700s and 800s that kind of raided all of those islands surrounding what we now know as Scotland and Ireland. And right now, there's about almost 6 million people in Scotland, and most of them proclaim Protestant as their religion. And so they are a country that's government is tied to England at the moment, meaning that they're part of the United Kingdom. And in 2014, the Scottish people were allowed to have a referendum. The English allowed them to have a referendum to vote whether they wanted to continue to be a part of England or become a nation on their own. It's a very closely contested battle, and it ended up being 45% of Scotland in 2014 wanted to break away from the United Kingdom and be a part of the European Union. And then 55% of the people said, no, we're happy with where we are right now, being a part of the United Kingdom with England. So that was 2014. A lot of things have happened now because now England has broken away from the EU, basically, and they've had the Brexit and are now an independent country. Scotland's a part of that, so is Northern Ireland. And those countries, those regions, Northern Ireland and Scotland, probably will break away in the coming years just because they want to be a part of the European Union and not so much tied to the roots of England down in London. So that's a little history of where we are and what we're looking at as far as Scotland is concerned.
Hi, David McGuffin here from the beautiful valley of Glencoe in the Highlands of Scotland. This is just a fantastic place, and the weather could not be better today. I hope you enjoy this look around the valley of Glencoe here in the Highlands of Scotland.
Wow, that is beautiful. And look at the blue sky and the clouds. There's a huge mountain here called Ben Nevis. That's about 8,000 feet, and it dominates the skyline in this little valley of Glencoe.
Hi, David.
On our Best of Scotland tour, we do Scotland and Wales together. But after we visit Edinburgh, we cross this huge river called the Forth River. It's not number 4, but F-O-U-R-T-H or F-O-R-T-H, Forth. And the estuary leading out into the North Sea, they call it the Firth of Forth. The Firth is an estuary leading out. So it's about 2.5, 3 miles wide, kind of like the St. Johns River here in North Florida where we live. And crossing over that river on the huge bridge, we go over to the north side of that river and visit a little town called Culross. And it was a port town way back in the day in the 15, 16, 1700s, and was very prosperous. And there's a lot of legend that goes on as far as how it was established, but the bottom line is there was a gentleman named Surf who was lived there, and he found a maiden or young baby in a boat all alone, and he took that baby and nurtured her and raised her up, and she became the founder of Culross, and the Saint Seraph eventually became a saint. And so that's the legend of how this whole town was started. Later on, it became a coal mining town. And this ingenious man built a coal mine underneath the river, the first one ever, and was able to have pumping stations that pump the water out where the men could mine it safely. But I think it was around 1625 or so that a big windstorm came across and wiped out the coal mine, flooded, and it's never been used since then. And the town has also been used for salt panning and salt mining. And so it's been prosperous through the centuries. So here's my look around Culross.
Up in here on the Royal Berg of Culross.
Hey, while that's going on, I'm going to take a minute and go out here and put the salmon on the grill.
The village was established in the 600s when a local monk established an abbey here in a monastery, and it's been thriving ever since. It was a wonderful coal mining town in the 16th and 17th centuries, and that's where it got its claim to fame. Culross, right here behind me, is situated on a hilltop and the estuary of the Forth River, which I'll do a little spin around so you can see. And the estuary in Scotland is known as a firth. And so this is the estuary of the Forth River, or the Firth of Forth. You can see we're looking back behind me to the east, and that's downriver, and then upriver back to the west. You can see some industry in the background, some refining plants, and also some coal fire electrical generating stations as well. So I hope you enjoy this little look around the Royal Berg of Culross. Definitely the spring holiday break season. Kids all over the place enjoying this beautiful day, April the 11th.
The yellow building is the, quote, castle of Culross, the manor house. This is the Meerkat, the market, the Meerkat Cross. There's always a market cross in all of the towns in Scotland where the market would come to. The vegetables and all of the stuff would come to market once a week at the Meerkat Cross.
Notice the ancient cobblestones there. The lady just told me that be careful, they're quite dodgy on the feet.
You can see this is way away from the...
This little village dates from ancient times and is said to be the home of Saint Mungo, the patron saint of Glasgow.
Never can find anywhere.
What you see here dates from the 16th century. A fishing village, a coal mining town, and a salt producing village.
This was a manor house, the castle, Culross Castle. Got beautiful gardens in the back with their own chickens and roosters.
waiting on the roosters. So from the Palace Gardens here in Culross, Scotland, this is David McGuffin saying your adventure starts right here with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe.
This next little video takes some explaining. There are just right where the Highlands and Lowlands join, there are several canals that run across Scotland. And there are two canals that connect right here. In the 1830s, they wanted to connect them, and they were at different levels. So one canal is about 80 feet higher than the other. So if you can imagine this device here called the Falkirk Wheel, Falkirk is the town that it's situated in. This is the end of a canal going that way, kind of off to your right. Below here, at the bottom of the page, at the bottom of your vision here, is another canal running perpendicular to that. And so they had to have a device that would connect those two canals and transport boats that were carrying goods and supplies from one region of Scotland or one side of Scotland to the other. So this Falkirk wheel was invented in the 1830s. And basically, the boat would come out across the top here, stop. This device would pick up the boat and run it back down to the other side, the other canal. So I'll put it in motion so you can see it working. I sped it up a little bit. It takes about 20 minutes to see the whole deal, but this is the video that I shot from straight away. So you can see the boats are here and here. So one boat's going down from this canal. I'm going to get into this canal. This boat just came up in the canal. It's going to go up into the canal. The Falkirk wheel. It's kind of an interesting thing I've never seen before. And it's a way to get out in the daytime and or the weekend and go have a picnic and see something. You can rent boats and take a ride on the Falkirk wheel. And there's several restaurants that have views of it. So it's kind of an interesting thing, just about an hour away from Edinburgh. Now, this is going to take a lot of explaining because now we're definitely in the Highlands. And as on this our tour, we stopped by this place between Inverness and to the north and Pitlarky to the south. And we visit this farmer who raises sheep. And he has probably about 400 sheep and several different herds all throughout the countryside here. And these dogs are trained to take care of the sheep and herd them up and bring them back in, break them off from one part of the pasture to the other. So I'll explain it, but it's a lot more interesting to look and see in person than it is to see here. But let me try to explain it as we go through here. So the farmer, he's speaking English, but he's got a heavy Scottish accent. So I'll just kind of tell you that he can tell these dogs by whistles and hand signals of what to do. So you see him sitting here at his feet right now. And you can't see it right now, but there's several groups of sheep out there. There you go, under that tree, there's one group. And so the dogs are running out that way. And there's another group high on the hill to the right. You can see that. And there's a dog behind that. So the idea is to combine those sheep herds together and bring them into the farm. Now the command he's whistling, and you hear him saying, slow the sheep down. Don't let them run off all their fat. I don't know if you can see it, but the dogs kind of get down on their haunches.
forward. Your right on the boat is left. Look back.
That's pretty amazing. In Scotland,
Colour marks on the sheep's coat identify the sheepdog farm. Our farm mark is the orange above the tail. The red mark, the blue mark means it's a castrated male. The one with the orange above the tail is a female sheep. The blue mark above the tail is a male sheep.
so he's explaining what the painted sheep, the markings on the sheep mean. Red female that's maybe been impregnated, blue a male.
Dog's supposed to poor clot is come back. Come in. The dog goes left to right.
In Scotland, a flock of sheep, a herd of sheep, is about 400 in a flock, as opposed to, let's say, in Ireland, when there's about 60.
Walk behind them. Walk them like that. Weaver! Right. Bye! Stop. Left one is come by. Bert, come by! Come by, Bert! Bert, come by! Come by, Bert! Stop the right out. Come by, Bert! Stop. Right! Right! Walk behind the sheep slowly.
Most of these sheep are raised
Walk behind the sheep quicker.
and are raised to eat
Stop.
as lamb, so less than a year old. There's some that are the wool is harvested from them, and that's to make, of course, clothing, and also the oil from the wool is lanolin, and that's used quite a bit. But there are also some farmers that use the sheep to produce food items other than the sheep themselves. And so the milk that comes from the sheep, we know as Italy is pecorino. We also know Roquefort and feta is both sheep milk cheese, and ricotta as well. So those are produced as well. The sheep mate in the fall, and they produce their lambs in the springtime. A moment ago, I just told you that about the painted sheep, and he was kind of explaining that. I have a web page on my website called Painted Sheep, which has by far the most hits per day, per week, per month, per year than any other page that I have. It seems like there's just people all the time looking for painted sheep. There's also evidently a band called Painted Sheep. I'm not quite sure about that. But most people are searching about why are the sheep painted this color and that color. So if you're interested, there's a whole article there along with a little video as well about painted sheep at davidwilson.com.
Jump! Jump! Stop right there. It's not the walk. It's right. It's right. Left. Oh! Oliver! So you come right to the leg. Oliver! Right! Over! Right! Like, keep up close. Bring them close. The dogs will line up behind them.
See the wool's left on them, plenty of wool. There's plenty of wool left on the sheep. Ollie? Ollie, no. You could not normally shear sheep in this area until the middle of June.
I'm going to resume here, share my screen, and talk to you a minute about the battlefield up near Inverness in the north of Ireland called Culloden. Now, I don't know how many of you have followed the series that I think is finished now called Outlander, about Jamie and Claire and the time in the 1600s when Jamie was a Scot and Claire was a time traveler. But if you've seen that, the Culloden Battlefield was very prevalent in that, as far as being supposedly the demise of Jamie. But in real history, the Battle of Culloden happened on the 16th of April, 1746. And it was a huge battlefield, and it was basically the Jacobites, or what we could call the Scottish clan, were convinced by Bonnie Prince Charlie, who was the eldest son of one of the rightful heirs to the English throne, to rise up and try to defeat the government forces, or what we know as the English Redcoats, what we call them over here. So in 1746, April 16th, there was a huge battle here at Culloden, and it was the Jacobites, or the Scottish people, were defeated. And that was essentially the end of that rising. And from that point on, the Highlanders, or the Scots, were basically put in bondage, murdered, and have been oppressed ever since. So let me just share a little bit of this. You have to kind of use, with any type of battlefield, you have to use your imagination, but I'll kind of...
Here from Culloden Battlefield, up near Inverness on Culloden Moor. This path I'm standing on is the government line, that it would be the British government front line. And then we'll kind of walk around here. It's kind of difficult to explain everything, but basically the Jacobites were annihilated here on this Culloden Moor. And at this battle that lasted about an hour in April 16, 1746, I believe is the date. So again, this is a government line, and looking across, you can see how foggy it is. And straight across here, there's some blue flags that you can see in a little bit, is where the Jacobites were. The story goes there was about 8,000 British government troops here on this front line, stretching back from here, in 3 different lines, and 5,500 Jacobites across the next ridge. You can see it possibly in a few moments. These markers define where many of the Highlanders and the orders of Bonnie Prince Charlie, the Jacobites, fell in battle. Just not so far from the front line British government soldiers. And it says that probably in this area, within the space of 1 minute, over 700 or 800 Highlanders were slaughtered right here.
There's that last shot I just showed you was the visitor center that's newly constructed in the last 5 years or so, and it really is great to explain the Battle of Culloden, and then you can walk out to the battlefield and see the different sites. And so we do that. It's kind of like going to Gettysburg. You know, you don't really know what you're seeing in Gettysburg unless you take the course and hear the history and go to the exhibition center, and then you know what the markers mean out there. But to the Scots, the Battle of Culloden is a big deal. Okay, I'm on Loch Ness right here.
Loch Ness, up in the Highlands of Scotland today. We've got a 1-hour cruise passing through Kirk Castle and coming down from Inverness. Enjoy this little look around the home of Nessie, the sea monster, the Loch Ness monster. starts right here with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe. Hey, David McGuffin here, along with John Powell. We're in Oban, and look at this dang view. Oban, Scotland. Look at this view out here from where we're having dinner. The harbor over Oban.
So Oban is on the far west coast of Scotland. You may recognize it if you know anything about Scotch or whiskey, that it's also the home of a distillery called Oban Distillery, which is a very famous distillery for Scotch. And so this is the town situated on the harbor. It's a jumping off place to the Hebrides Islands. But it's a Victorian type of town. That hotel you just saw, Colombo Hotel, which is brownstone, was in the late 1800s in the era of Queen Victoria. This is a few of my groups here in Oban, and we always have 2 nights here in this town. It's just a wonderful place to visit, and the cuisine is great.
So
if you like
we
seafood.
end this thing by saying, your adventure starts right here with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe, right? Don't you think? Okay. Cruising to the island.
And then the second day, when we're open, we go out to the island of Mull and Iona. And this particular one, we're visiting the island of Scaffa as well.
Hey, this is David McGuffin, way on the northwestern coast of Scotland on the Isle of Staffa and the Hebrides Islands.
The wind is terrible. If any of you have been to Northern Ireland with me, or even by yourselves, and gone to the Giant's Causeway, you may recognize these stones as being very similar, these bauxite hexagonal stones. And this actually, the Isle of Staffa here, is where a walkway was connecting Northern Ireland, or the island of Ireland, to Scotland centuries ago. And it's this walkway goes all the way under the sea, the North Sea, and comes back up in Northern Ireland at what's known as the Giant's Causeway. My friend Eugene, it was windy that day and cold, but you can see the weather was beautiful. The boat ride, it's a small boat, so there's about 10 of us on it. You can see it right there. And a lot of people on that boat got sick in this little excursion. Luckily, I did not.
The final ferry ride to Iona.
Now, the other island we'll visit is Iona, the island of Iona. And it's famous for a monastery that was built there way back in, the 800s. And it's also famous because it was where the Book of Kells was penned. So if you've been to Ireland with me and you've been to Dublin and visited Trinity College, you can see the actual Book of Kells there, which are the 4 Gospels penned by Christ's disciples. And you can see the Book of Kells where it was transcribed there. So as the story goes is that this island of Iona, which we're going to see now, was invaded by the Vikings in the 800s and killed about 65 or so of the monks there at this monastery on Iona. And the remaining monks who took shelter picked up all their stuff, including the Book of Kells, sailed across the Irish Sea, and landed at Kells in Ireland and established another monastery there. So that's why this document is known as the Book of Kells, not the Book of Iona.
Looking over at the Abbey on the island here. It's about 3 miles long and a mile and a half wide. Apparently we have about 2.5 hours on the island after doing all the ferry and bus rides to get here. People belong to Iona.
You can hear very little of my narration because of the wind, but basically this is the old church that was established there, the Abbey. And of course, it's been refurbished over the centuries. This is a 1750 version of it, so it's still pretty dang old. But it's been here since the early 600s that the Abbey was established.
Beyond a little group of tourists, certainly not crowds, getting beyond the group of tourists.
Right beyond that, that wall out here, this stone wall is an even older graveyard dating back to the 400s AD. And a lot of famous people are buried there, kings of England. But I found it interesting that the poet or writer Macbeth is also buried right there, way out here on the coast of Scotland.
And out into the island is a pilgrimage. It's said that St. Columba came over here in the 6th century from Ireland to establish this monastery here in Iona. And there's some evidence here because just as in Ireland, there are these fuchsia plants all over the place, not seen them anywhere else in Scotland.
And by the way, the fuchsia plants are not indigenous to Ireland or Scotland. They come from South America. And a gentleman named Lord Ventry sailed to South America and brought those plants back to the southwest coast of Ireland. And they just taken over like weeds and spread all over the place.
Buying eggs on the honor system. Walk up to the farmer, open it up, get your eggs out, and put in 2 pounds. You wouldn't see that in many places. Well, from the far western shore. Hey, David McGuffin here. August 3rd, I'm at Glasgow Airport. Heading back to Florida tomorrow, but tonight, you can see I'm bundled up. It's about 65 degrees here at the airport. They've been having a heat wave, but for me, this Floridian guy is pretty chilly. So anyway, I'll check with you when I get back to Florida in about 36 hours and let you know how I'm dressed then. So I'm in Glasgow at the airport. Been kind of chilling out today here at my hotel, the Courtyard Marriott. My group is off back to Dallas, Texas, and I spent the day, most of the day in my hotel room, like working on future tours and everything else. But I decided to head into Glasgow City Center. They have a great express bus here from the airport, bus number 500, that goes directly into the city center, and it flies. It flies in there in 15 minutes. I'm right down there in the city center. I went and had a wonderful dinner of Chateaubriand and some potatoes and a salad. And it was just a fantastic way to cap off this tour in Scotland. And then back again. Here I am at 9 o'clock. It's still daylight. But it just goes to show you how much public transportation is so much better here than in Middleburg, Florida. Who knows? So much better than anywhere that I live in Florida. Anyway, a great experience. Thanks for checking things out with me. And your adventure starts right here with David McGuffin's Exploring.
Okay, back full screen here. And again, thank you guys for joining me tonight. I hope you got a little vision of Scotland. And last week we dealt strictly with Edinburgh. and talked about that, and I was able to assemble a lot of video clips for that. So if you're interested, all the archives for all of my Travel Talk Tuesdays, which we began the first week of December 2020, are at davidmcguffin.com /TTT for Travel Talk Tuesdays. So we put that archive on there, and then, of course, telling you what's coming up next. A little travel update for Europe. Each week we come here with a new and hopeful perspective, and it looks like European countries south of the Alps are fed up with it and are ready to open their borders first. And countries such as those in the Balkans, like Croatia and Albania, Montenegro, those countries are open right now. And Macedonia, North Macedonia, all of those are open right now. Greece is totally open their borders as of last Thursday. And I contact people and my friends in Greece every day, and things are going well. Museums, restaurants are all open, so everything's good to go. We have a couple of groups going to Greece about a month from now, and all set for that. Our flights are booked and paid for to get from the United States over to Athens. And then we're doing flights that go from Athens to Santorini. Those are all booked and taken care of. Everything's good. And then we're also doing a ferry that's going from Athens to the island of Idra as well. So all of those things are taken care of, and we're good to go for both of those trips coming up in June. And then I'll also be on tour following that in the first week or two of July in Italy, which is totally open as well. They're open. My friends who I know in Rome and Venice and Volterra and Tuscany are just elated that things are getting back to normal. People are being vaccinated. Masks are required indoors, but not outdoors. Travel's back to normal, and tourists are welcome there. Now Italy's welcoming tourists, us Americans, if we're vaccinated or come there with a negative COVID test. Spain and Portugal, very much the same. And a high-ranking European Union official just said last Friday that for 100%, they're going to open, the European Union is going to open their borders for vaccinated people or people who come with a negative COVID test. It's up to each country to define when that time is going to be, but it will be for summer travel, I'm positive. So Ireland's going to open up. Scotland's already totally open right now as far as for their own residents. Restaurants went back into full operation business last Friday. And so they have both indoor and outdoor dining, and a few restrictions as far as how many people and how big of a party can come in. But I think they're probably, as far as the state of Florida goes, they're probably a good 3 months behind the state of Florida as far as their rules and regulations. It almost seems like they might be following what our governor here has put out and kind of rolling it out slowly. But I'm just kind of feeling pretty certain by the time of the 1st of July rolls around, you'll be able to go to Europe if you want to without any problem. I mentioned earlier that Leslie, who works with me, she and her husband have traveled, and they're going down to one of the islands in the Caribbean. And other than having to get a negative COVID test, they were able to travel freely down there. They're vaccinated, but that wasn't a criteria at the moment. So I think the world's opening up. So there's positive outlook ahead. And that means that the tours that I have on the books are really going strong. And so I've got some tours. If you take a look at davidmcguffin.com, you can see 8 or 9 tours that I have set up for the rest of this year throughout the fall. And so people are signing up every day. And I just think there's a pent-up desire and demand for people to get out and go travel. And you don't necessarily have to get out and go travel to Europe, but boy, it would be nice to be able to just do that freely. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to do that or go anywhere unless we can do it like we have done pre-COVID. That means travel to and go to restaurants that serve authentic meals and cuisine, and go to museums that show the sites and exhibit the sites, and then go to these cultural experiences like you've seen today on Scotland, and we've done that. So outside activities and everything else. So I just think all of this is going to be opened up by the 1st of July. It's going to be wide open, and we may have to take a COVID test or have a vaccine and show that proof of it when you arrive on the continent or when you arrive at your destination. But after that, you'll be pretty free and clear to go, except maybe having a mask inside. Who knows what each country is going to do. But that's a report from that. So I think that pretty much concludes everything. Next week, we're going to be talking about the best of the Mediterranean. I have a tour that starts in Barcelona and traces the Mediterranean Sea all the way over to Italy's Cinque Terre region. And we make quite a bit of stops in Spain, in Barcelona, in France, and I spend a lot of time in France and visit the sites. And so I'll begin chronicling that next week, and possibly it may take us 2 weeks to visit that, but we'll begin the best of Med and start with Barcelona at least next week. So probably my salmon's done out there, and I can't run out there and get it because I'm the only one here. So I'll share it with you next week what it looks like. But it's going to be interesting to eat. We're going to have a good time chowing down after we see you. So thank you guys for joining me tonight. I'll finish up my Pinot Noir, and we'll catch you next week with Travel Talk Tuesday. Okay, thanks everybody. You guys take care and have a good week. Bye-bye.